Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Brandon, and today we'll be editing a photo together from start to finish. But before we go any further, this video is sponsored by Skillshare, so a huge thank you to them. If you didn't already know, I have a 70-minute class over on their platform where I go over things like how I prepare for a shoot, I bring you out on the actual shoot, and then we go and head to a studio where I edit 2 photos, one during the day and then one at night. But more recently, I just dropped a bonus lesson with them. If you guys remember, I asked you guys to submit your own photos for me to critique and review, and today is the day you get to hear that feedback on some of your images. I've never actually done anything like this where I go in and offer some insight on how I would approach a shoot or an edit differently, so I'm super excited for you guys to check it out. And if you don't already have access to Skillshare, I'm going to be leaving a link down below in the description, and the first 1,000 people that use that link will get a free trial to a Skillshare premium membership, and then from there it's only around $10 a month. So using that link and signing up will not only allow you to view my 70-minute class, but also my bonus lesson that just dropped as well. Either way, the platform is amazing for creators just like you guys. I totally recommend you all to go and check it out. All right, now let's head into what we're here for, and that is to edit this photo together. If you guys keep up with me on Twitter or Instagram, you would know that one of my hard drives actually just corrupted, so not the best time. But it's currently being restored. I do have some photos on my older drives as well as my computer desktop, so I kind of went through the archives and picked one out. We're going to be editing this photo today. I shot of my friend Kaylee. This was shot in California of March or April of last year. We took a little road trip, and this was the last stop that we made right at sunset. I really love shooting and playing with different silhouettes, especially if they're playing off a nice sky gradient in the background, like this image is doing. I feel like it gives me a lot of different options for what to do in the edit. I can do things like add overlays, I can tweak the colors in the sky, or even completely replace the sky. Like always, I'm going to be using this Wacom tablet right here. I seriously cannot edit without one of these. I feel like I just have way more control. I just cannot do the mouse or trackpad thing. Doesn't work for me. And because I want to play around with a possible sky replacement, I'll be using Adobe Photoshop 2021. And because I shot the photo in RAW, all we're going to do is double click that and it'll open into the Camera Raw plugin. The first move I always make is playing around with the temperature and tint because I don't always capture the white balance exactly how I would like it while I'm shooting, especially if it's a time-sensitive manner like a sunset. From there, I play around with tools in the basics panel like exposure, contrast, and highlights, making sure things are exactly how I would like it, but I always keep in mind that I can go back if needed. There's always things that jump out to me in a photo, and with this one, it's the vignette. It's a little bit uneven. It's actually a lot uneven, and it's just overall too intense on the right side. So I'm gonna head on over to my optics panel and play around with the vignette here. This is something I'll definitely be able to fix when we open up the image into Photoshop, but for now, I'm just making it a little bit lighter. I also always go into the distortion panel and play around there. This comes more in handy when it's a close-up portrait and things are getting a little bit warped. After making some more tweaks in the basics panel, I'm headed over to the details. As I zoom in here, I'm noticing that I'm sure the wind matched with whatever my shutter speed was in the moment is creating a little blur on the model's hair and face. So I'm just going in and sharpening that up just a bit. It's definitely not always the worst thing to have motion blur in your photos. I feel like it adds a little bit more movement and makes the photo look a little bit more realistic sometimes, and I feel like that could be the case here. I always play a little bit with noise reduction as well, especially because this photo was shot in fairly low lighting. There's not really any unnecessary grain I'm seeing, so I don't want to add too much. From here, we can finally start to play a little bit more with our coloring, so I'm headed on over to our color mixer and color grading panels. For my personal process, I never really stick to one panel for too long. I like to jump around. I can get really caught up with playing around in Camera Raw, so I have to kind of cut myself off sometimes. All right, now we're just going to duplicate our base layer so we can always go back to the original if needed. Another thing that's really jumping out to me here is the subject's hair. It was actually a big reason why I chose this photo because I really like it, but something about it though is a little bit like too top heavy for me. So I'm going to jump into the liquify tool and play around with the shape of it. I feel like that's looking way better. I'm still not super happy with the vignette here. I know I played around a little bit with it in Camera Raw, but I'm kind of still not satisfied. There are a few different ways we can go about this. The first thing I'm gonna do is just simply duplicate the right side to the left. I really want the vignette to match here, and then we'll just simply mask out that harsh line there. I just realized something. If I want to move forward with a sky replacement, I don't really have to worry about the vignette. So let's try that out first, and then we can go back because I don't want to do more work than I need to do. If you do have Photoshop 2021, you're going to head on over to Edit and then Sky Replacement. Because I don't really know exactly what I want, I'm just going to play around with every single option and see what works. But I don't know, I kind of do really like our original gradient kind of sky that we shot. So I may not move forward with this at all. But it doesn't hurt to play around because you might come across something that looks really good. Because I'm not completely set on that, I think I'm gonna play around with some overlays instead. I have a whole folder with all of my overlays that I play around with. Some that I've shot personally, and then some that are royalty free or ones that I've bought. So I know they're safe to use, and they really come in handy when I don't know what to do with an image. Because we have this really harsh silhouette, I want to play around with some like starry night overlays. So I'm just going to load in a bunch here, and then we can play around the placement, the opacity, and we can mask some stars out as well. I kind of really like this red star overlay. If you are playing with overlays on top of your image, it really helps to load in a ton and then just see what works and what doesn't work. This time around, I'm using a lightened blending mode. So that's why, you know, the lighter parts of our overlay are showing up on the dark parts of our original image. And then I'm just cropping as well because now the overlay started to extend our canvas a bit. Something I'm noticing here that happens a lot with gradient and skies is some banding happening. And as we play more and more with an image, especially with a gradient like this in the background, you will see some banding. One way I like to combat this is by adding just some noise. So I'm going to be adding a new layer and filling that layer with 50% gray, changing the blending mode to overlay, and then going to filter, noise, and add noise. And I know in photography you're always trying to get away from noise and grain, but sometimes it really helps if you're adding just a touch. After this point, I'm going to duplicate our kind of key layers here and then combine them into one layer so we can bring that back into Camera Raw and play more with our curves and tones and overall adjustments as well. I actually have a few presets that I play around with from time to time, and so we're gonna load in one right here. They don't always look exactly how I want it to, so I always end up making tweaks. I always forget to name my layers, so we're gonna go in and do that really quickly. And now with this curve layer, I just retitled. I don't want it at 100% opacity. It's just a little bit too strong for me. So we're gonna bring it down to like a 30 or 40%. We're actually gonna do this one more time. I tend to do this anywhere from like 2 to 3 times because I like combining different presets and then making them look really subtle. Okay, I'm actually really liking how this is looking. If we head back to our before photo, we can see all the changes we've made. And then from there, I am gonna send it to my phone and see how it's looking. So we're just gonna go to File, Save As. We're gonna change that format to a JPEG, title our photo, and then always be sure to export it at the maximum quality that you can. Because I'm using a Mac to edit, I'm going to share and then airdrop. and then I'm sending it over to my phone. All right, so now that we have the high quality version on our phone, I'm gonna be using some editing apps to make some further adjustments. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I don't. It just depends on the photo. I also feel like a lot of the time when I'm editing a photo on my computer, it tends to look a little bit different on your phone, so I never see the harm in playing around with the colors even more. So whenever I am making tweaks on my phone, some of the editing apps that I gravitate towards are Visco. Tezza is also a good one. And then I also really like Prequel. Within Visco, I really like the C's. So I'm gonna go in and play around, I think, with C8. I usually go into the 2s or 3s here, nothing too dramatic, but a little pop of color looks really nice sometimes. Playing a little bit more with the tint and then just exporting that from there. Okay, so we're just gonna go to save to camera roll, and there we go, we're all done. From this point on, the last thing I do is just try and figure out some sort of caption, and then it goes up on Instagram. So there it is. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm really loving offering some more insight on how I go about my process, and I hope you guys are too. And you can let me know by giving this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to head down into the description to check out my class and bonus lesson on Skillshare. Also linked below, as always, will be the gear I use, my photo books, my prints, and even some iPhone wallpapers for download. But yeah, with all of that, I will see you guys very soon. Bye. Oh my God, I'm sweating.